Hello, another video on bureaucracy, and this time about why rules, when you adhere to the letter of the law instead of the spirit of the law, can be very damaging. So here's a story about my lab at Duke. So we have a research group that does work on something, doesn't matter. And we have another research group that works on something else. One day, research group A is encountering a statistical question, and they want the help of somebody from research group B who happened to be an expert. She's an expert in a particular statistical analysis. And the people from research group A go to the person from research group B and say, hey, doesn't matter the name, would you mind looking at our data and giving us some advice about this particular statistical modeling approach? And the person from that group says, well, we have rules, which we do. And she says, in order to be able to look at the data, I need to be on the IRB. Right? The IRB is about regulating data collection, but also working with data. Okay, so we have group A, person from group B, and now the first step is to get that person to be put on the IRB. For that, we need an IRB amendment. So there's a form, there's an IRB amendment, submit it, wait for a while, it's approved, now that person can look at this. But this amendment go through grants. And the people at the legal aspect of grants give us a call and say, hey, this person is not on that grant. There's a grant for group A, there's a grant for group B. Grant A is asking for this help, but this person is not on that grant. How could she look at the data and give them advice if she's 100% paid on grant B? What you need to do is you need to estimate how many hours it would take. We said, we think it will take 2 hours. And they said, okay, now we need to create a process in which you take 2 hours of her time and you move her to grant A. And only after you finish moving her to grant A, then she can look at the data. So we do all that. She moved to grant A for 2 hours. She helps look at the data. She gives them her advice. Then we move her time in the system from 2 hours on grant A to 100% on grant B. The whole thing delayed us for quite a bit. And the time costs were expensive. Submitting amendments, waiting for the amendments, talking to legal, moving time allocation from one account to another. All of these things could be probably with the press of a button, but they all have form and they're all complex and they all need justification for why you're moving. The moment you say, I want to move somebody from grant B to grant A, you have to explain why. Anyway, at the end of the day, I created a research lab because I thought that there's a quality in people helping each other. You want a lab because you don't want people to just work as silos, because you want people to talk to each other. Now, if every time you want somebody to talk to you, you need to move them to the accounting code of your grant, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to say, oh, I have a question for you. Oh, wait. It will take you an hour. Let me wait a month until you move to my grant, and then I'll switch you an hour later. At the end of the day, universities are about collaborations. Labs are inherently about collaborations. What we want is to increase collaboration as much as possible. The accounting codes just don't facilitate that. Now, a long time ago, I think what happened was that everybody knew the rule, but they said, look, if you're helping for an hour to somebody else, it's fine, right? You're not going to charge them for that, and one time you will help them, and one time you will help them, and if something will get too much, then let's worry about it. But if it's a little bit here, a little bit there, don't worry about it. But we're at a stage of bureaucracy that people worry about the letter of the law to a minute degree. And worrying about it to a minute degree destroys the whole reason we have a lab. Now, how do we solve it? I don't know. I really don't know. Because if we want people to help each other. And we want to be consistent with this process of moving people from grant to grant. Every time you ask them for a piece of advice, it's just incompatible. Can we go back to a time when we used more common sense and say, you know, if you're just helping me a little bit here and there, I'm not going to move the whole Duke bureaucracy for that? I don't know. I don't know. Universities are going to go through some tremendous changes. There's going to be less money for bureaucracy, less overhead, less money for bureaucracy. Maybe the changes will be positive. Maybe there will be the realization that we can have less bureaucracy and more common sense. And maybe there'll be the sense that we can trust people. Say, hey, this is on you. If it gets out of hand too much, let us know. If it's a little bit here or there, don't worry about it. And we're not going to have this whole mechanism that moves people from grant to grant for 1 or 2 hours. So I'm hoping that outside pressures would create more sensibility, less bureaucracy, more trust, and more common sense. Let's hope. Bye for now.